This is the opening hand of a $110 million wager. It's a post-apocalyptic epic that attempts to move away from the established survival horror playbook. The bet belongs to Ridley Scott. The director built his science fiction legacy on the grim, claustrophobic dread of Alien and Blade Runner. But his recent high-budget releases, like Napoleon and Gladiator II, have struggled to find traction at the box office. For his return to the genre, Scott is moving away from the despair of his earlier work. Instead of focusing on destruction, he's directing a story centered on the choice to hope. Bringing that introspective focus to an IMAX release with a $110 million budget represents a departure from the typical action-heavy summer blockbuster. The film takes place 9 years after a flu pandemic and blood disease wiped out over 99% of the human population. What remains is a desolate Colorado wilderness. Living in this void is Hig, played by Jacob Elordi. He's a former poet and pilot, residing in an abandoned airport hangar with his dog, Jasper. He shares that space with Bangley, played by Josh Brolin. Bangley is a heavily armed ex-Marine, and the primary reason the two of them are still alive. Their alliance forms a tightly controlled perimeter. It establishes a baseline of survival in a dead world, which creates the central tension of the story. Bangley operates on a utilitarian philosophy. To him, the world is a zero-sum game, and every living creature outside their perimeter is a threat to be eliminated. Hig harbors a different conviction. He struggles with their isolation, believing that staying alive is secondary to maintaining a human connection. That character dynamic asks a direct question. When the world ends, is mere existence enough? Or is humanity defined by the vulnerability of hoping for more? That equilibrium is disrupted when a random, static broken voice beams through the radio of Hig's 1956 Cessna. Driven by the possibility of a better life, Hig decides to risk his safety. He leaves the zone and flies past his point of no return to track the signal. This journey forces him into an unpredictable landscape of new survivors, including a protective former Navy SEAL named Pops, played by Pearce. Leaving the perimeter changes the story from a stationary waiting game into a test of whether strangers can still choose to trust one another. The creative foundation is Peter Heller's 2012 novel. The book is written in a sparse, stream-of-consciousness prose that emphasizes the psychological weight of isolation. Translating an introspective book into a premium large-format theatrical experience presents a challenge. You have to fill a massive screen, but the source material takes place largely inside one man's head. To bridge that gap, the production is adding moments of spectacle to the character study. The script introduces nomadic scavengers known as Reapers, ensuring there is heavy gunfire alongside the existential themes. Balancing that physical conflict with a slow-burning internal narrative runs a risk. It could alienate the traditional blockbuster audiences who expect constant action. We are already seeing that friction play out. Leaked reactions from recent test screenings indicate that some audiences are walking away underwhelmed, describing the pacing as folky and questioning the lack of urgency. Ridley Scott remains unmoved by those reactions. In recent interviews, he stated The Dog Stars is his best movie since The Martian. The massive disconnect between Scott's unshakable confidence and the lukewarm test reactions forms the central tension of this $100 million production. It's where a director's intent meets the broad expectations of a mass audience. Projected market share for August 2026 shows original R-rated adult dramas occupy a tiny fraction compared to massive franchise sequels. Here, The Dog Stars faces a steep barrier, fighting to hold premium IMAX screens against established blockbusters. The theater is where the wager gets settled. We'll find out if audiences still have an appetite for slow-burn, emotional science fiction, or if Ridley Scott's message of hope is destined to be buried at the box office.